Hey everyone, it's Liz of Consumed by Books, and I'm here to you today to talk about writing. I know a lot of you guys, whether you are bloggers, readers, bibliophiles, already want to become published authors. Some of you watching this video may be published authors. I have loved writing for a good deal of my life. My parents always encouraged me as a kid to read, to write, to think, to just generally be an intelligent person, and I love them forever for that. And I think in second grade or something, maybe third, my dad actually gave me this, which is one of my first ever journals. So that kind of got me started on really writing. So yeah, I just want to talk to you today about all of my writing habits because I'm sure it's something that you guys are curious about maybe. And it's something that I think is an interesting conversation topic. Believe it or not, I don't actually have the goal of becoming a published writer in my lifetime. I know that sounds odd because I'm the girl who's acquiring a variety of books from different genres every week. I mean, there is some YA heavy, but I do read adult genres, and yes, I read picture books like Fancy Nancy. And I am the person who wants to become a young adult librarian, but I do not necessarily feel the need to make my writing into a career at this point in time. I like doing it for fun and sharing it with the people who are, interested in seeing it. I mean, I have to be willing to share, and, usually the people who see it are family or people who've, helped me critique my own work in the past and kind of edit it. But yeah, anyways, so like I said, my interest in writing really started when I was little with things like journals. But of course, being the kid that I was who read all the time, I wanted to write too, so I'd sometimes write little stories about things. Like I remember once I wrote a story about a girl who went into space, and I had just been reading an American Girl magazine with an article about this girl who did Taekwondo, so my character in the story was named after the Taekwondo girl because I thought the Taekwondo story was really cool. So it's funny how little things like that would get incorporated into my writing. And then, of course, I grew older and my horizons broadened. And in middle school, I started writing more poetry. I started off with kind of more humorous stuff. Like, for example, I don't remember when I actually wrote the poem, but in 7th grade, I had this poem called 10 Little Hamsters, and our school had a little writing contest every year with all kinds of categories, like best short story, best kids story, best humorous poem. And my poem, 10 Little Hamsters, was about the hamsters in my brother's 3rd grade classrooms, which met unfortunate and untimely deaths, such as drowning in the swimming pool, an unfortunate encounter with a dog, chewing up the wires behind the washing machine. And it actually won Best Humorous Poem that year, so that was really fun. And one of the people who really encouraged me in my writing, especially in middle school, was my 8th grade English teacher. She had us do a whole unit on poetry and make these little anthologies, which is not only my work, but work by other people that I admire. Mine is called Promises. So I have like song lyrics, random poems that I found. I'm trying to find something that I wrote. No, I think I put a lot of the stuff that I wrote towards the end. The Raven, which is a poem that I still love. So this was, a really good way for me to not only read more poetry, but to write some of my own. And of course, as I grew older, the poetry did grow a little bit angstier, because that's part of being a teenager for a lot of people. So I did a lot of that. Another really cool project which we actually did in that class was we made our own autobiographies. So this is mine. And it's pretty cool because we'd have like a little theme each week. Like this week, tell a story about, your holiday traditions or your toys as a kid, things like that. And I've always really liked telling anecdotes, actually. But the thing is that I am really bad at telling anecdotes in person, because what I do is I remember the funny part of the story, and just as I'm about to get to it, I start kind of giggling, and then the giggling turns into full-on, like, crazy hyena laughter, which is unfortunate. And so I think that telling, like, funny stories about my family, like the time I went tobogganing down a gully, no injury sustained in that incident, actually work better in writing. Like, for example, when I spent my junior year abroad in England in college, I would write emails to my family and my friends. I had this whole list of people I would send them to, and afterwards I was told that I had a very dry and witty sense of humor, and I'm not, it's kind of hard to see that in yourself, like, wow, that's totally true, but like, oh, like, because you kind of don't want to brag about your sense of humor. But to give you an example of what people might have meant, here's a sample from one of my emails. This is about going to Scotland, by the way. Or rather, it's my brother and I went to Scotland. This is a story from what happened while we were there. Our plan was to head up to Inverness the next day, which we did with the rental car. Getting to the place was easy as we went by bus. The adventure really began once we had the rental car. We were well equipped with a guidebook and a map that would hardly fit in the car when it was entirely unfolded. However, apparently rotaries are really difficult to navigate when you have a stick shift. I would not know, as James was the only one legally allowed to drive. My guess is based on the fact that it took us a mere 2 hours, partially due to my awful navigation, to actually leave Edinburgh. So that is what I think people mean when they talk about my kind of dry writing when it comes to anecdotes. And those are actually the types of stories that I really enjoy writing. I'd love to delve more into creative nonfiction as a genre, learn more about what creative nonfiction really is. I actually did attend a writer's workshop one summer between my junior and senior year of high school at Kenyon College, which is where I ultimately met. And for me, that was a really great experience because it allowed me to learn more about different genres, different types of poetry, explore my own prose a little bit, and just generally get some good criticism on my work. So that was a really good experience. And let's see. Yeah, so to this day, I still write quite a bit of poetry. Not as much as I used to, but I still do write some. One of my primary activities is actually journaling. That's something that I've always kept up. And this is the journal that I write in. It is from the Jane Austen Center in Bath, England, but I think you can actually get the same journal at Barnes & Noble. I'm almost done with it right now. I only have, like, let's see. Yeah, I've got about this much left in it to fill. And it's not a thing where I write in it religiously every single night. I write in it when I have something that I want to say, or an anecdote that I want to put down, or an emotion that I want to vent. So it's really good for me, actually. I always feel better after I put something down in my journal, because it's just like, it's out, I'm not just like keeping it up inside anymore. And it's all, like, I think it's really fun to have a record of all of those types of things, because, I look back on, like, say, this is a journal that I wrote in like 7th and 8th grade, and just the stories of, like, oh, this is who I have a crush on right now, like, they're just so funny. It's hilarious to look back on what you were like in those years. And I think if you, like, if I really sat down and read through all of my journals, I would learn a lot about what I was like, about how I've changed over the years. Let's see. I don't really write much prose at the moment because, I don't know, it's not the genre that I'm most interested in. I do have an idea for a YA novel that I'm outlining and that I'm toying with. So I'm gonna try and outline it all the way and then see what's the extent that I want to pursue it. A lot of published authors will tell you the advice that if you want to write a novel, then the thing that you should do is to tell as many people as possible about it, so that way you're actually being held accountable. And the thing is that I feel no need to do that because, while I like the idea of writing a novel in theory, I'm not sure if it's something that I want to dedicate the time and whatnot to and practice. Like, it's just, I like the idea of it, but it's not something that I'm really interested in seriously pursuing. Like, I don't feel like I need to complete a novel to be fulfilled as a human being. Like, I enjoy doing other activities like running, socializing, training my dog, even though that one drains my patience as sometimes. I enjoy reading and working on my blog and spending time with my family. So, you know, it is, you know, frankly, to put it, I'm just not sure if writing a novel is my biggest priority in life. And I'm wondering if anyone else feels that way. Like, you like the idea of it, but you're just not sure if it's what you want to pursue. And, you know, if I ever pursue any type of writing professionally, I would think that it would be something to do with either poetry or some type of nonfiction. So, yeah, that's mostly what I have to say about all of my own writing. This is my giant box that I keep all of my writing in. Like these, I wrote for the newspaper in high school, and that's what I did for that. It was like a multimedia project I did in 10th grade for my English class. A list of all of the essays I wrote in high school. And a lot of my writing right now is actually graduate school admissions essays and scholarship essays. I will let you guys know how that whole applying to graduate school thing works out. Otherwise, I kind of write in my journal or work on my outline usually in the evenings, but generally kind of when I feel like it. Let's see. I have one other kind of cool thing to show you, and this is something that my 8th grade English teacher made for me. It's Kenyon College binder, because that's where I ultimately went. It was my high school graduation present, but I would send her all of the poetry that I wrote in high school, so she'd get like a couple emails from me a day. And she made it all into a book for me. It's, you know, poetry of my own and also some other stuff. And it's just, you know, really interesting to look back on everything that I wrote. So that is really awesome. So anyways, that's just kind of a video to show you more about me and what my relationship with writing is. I will always love my journals. I will probably always write poetry. And I want to hear about, you know, do you write in a journal? Do you write poetry? Are you working on a novel right now? Do you hope to get published someday? I'm really curious, so leave your answers in the comments or make your own videos or posts to talk about this kind of thing. And I will catch you guys later. Have a great week.